Hey, welcome to the Reach and Eden podcast. This is a podcast involving the development team of Gears of Eden, indie space adventure game that explores the world of sentient machines. So, we have our usual group with us today. We have Sledge, our creative director. How you doing, Sledge?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Great. And then we also have Eric, who is the lead writer for the game. Eric, how are you doing?
That is me. I am doing well.
Great. And rounding it out, the Wonder Team is me, Michael, and I help manage the project. We're going to make this as quick as possible, guys. In this episode of Reach and Eden, we're going to be updating you on the progress of the game. We're going to share some of the inspirations we found and discuss some of the games we've played. So we hope you enjoyed this podcast, and let's get right into it.
I never agreed to as quick as possible. I'm going to rant and rave about how much I love Banner Saga.
As quick as possible until the third segment.
Until the third segment where it always slows down a bit, and we literally have to pull Eric away from his mic. All right, let's talk about some important stuff. We got the Gears of Eden updates. We've talked a little bit about the concept artists and the process that we've been going through in the last podcast. We are happy to say we are finished with that selection process. And honestly, I am super excited for you guys to take a look at this.
Me too.
How are you guys feeling about it?
I'm feeling really good about it. And it's been fun. Like, we've been looking at the art internally. So, the process has been to hire like a small team of artists to do different concepts for the main character. And then we've been sort of reviewing those. So, what did you guys think about that process and getting all this artwork in and looking through it?
I'll be honest, when we're looking at this huge list of artists, I thought they were each going to design like a personal part or something. And then I realized that was way out of our price range. So I was like, okay, all right, I guess we won't get the super robot number 37, but I can live with the essentials.
Yeah, I was expecting it to be way harder of a process than it actually was. I've never gotten concept art before, and I just assumed everything is harder than I imagined it to be. We found some people that we thought did really great work that were really great for Gears of Eden.
Yeah.
We were like, hey, we have some money. Would you like to draw some stuff based on our game with this money? And they were like, yes, please give me the money and I will do this for you.
Well, that's actually crazy. You're right. When going into the process, I thought it was going to be kind of like this long, drawn out process of us having to give them a brief character description of like what we're looking for. They would give us something and then we'd go back, and it just be this huge back and forth between us and the artists to try to find like this right medium of like what we want. But thank God these people actually know what they're doing and have like a lot of experience with it. I'll be honest, I was blown away just looking at some of the first some of the first concept sketches they were giving us.
And we were asking for thumbnails too. So
yes,
they didn't have a lot of room to just draw these insane things, or I would have assumed they wouldn't have the room to do that. But they did some really, really great work with just that small space.
Yeah, and it's interesting to see the different takes on it. Like, even though, like you guys are right, there was some really good stuff to come in. Like, everyone had a different take on it, and then we sort of were able to look very quickly and see what we thought matched sort of our vision for the game, and that was just like an interesting process. So it's really great to see the different visions, and I'd say all of them had parts that we liked, and so it was really just a matter of seeing who got it easier without, a lot of back and forth, and the productivity, and of course the pricing is a little bit different too. So those are all some of the factors that we're looking at. But I thought it was a really enjoyable process, and putting together the brief and the information for the artists forced us to think a little bit more about what are the functions of this machine that it needs to have, not just for the gameplay.
I actually wanted to ask you, what did you give them to make that process so smooth?
I gave them a few things. So one, I gave them a character brief that sort of described a little bit about the game and the background of the story, and in particular, this character and how it's waking up and sort of what it's looking for and what its motivations are. And then I also gave a bunch of references to things that we've talked about as being inspirations. So things like Star Wars Rebels and WALL-E, and, all kinds of just tonal references as well, like games like Portal and things like that. And then you guys looked at that somewhat early on, and I think Michael was the one that suggested we do a character profile. So I wrote up a character profile that just sort of described the attitude of the main character as best as possible, so that those could inform what it should look like. You couldn't have this big hulking tank character and that capture what we want to do.
I was supposed to like write some stuff for
Confession
that.
time.
Completely forgot about it. Like you saying that right now reminded me. Oh, I need to do that thing.
Just laying the guilt on. It is on your to-do list still.
Let's email those concept arts real quick. Let's Eric needs to really quickly write the character profile, and let's get those new concept arts based on that real quick. Don't worry about it.
Forgot about it.
Yeah, but definitely having that stuff in place. And then the other thing, I sent them the story, actually. So the short story that Eric wrote. I sent that just to sort of help set some of the background of what's going on, even though, we're not asking them to work on any of those characters. But I think it just helped inform the world. And then, I think that with the references that they could also look at was really helped lock down the style that we're going for.
It was a bummer with some because, like, there was a lot of art that I just loved and I wanted to see that in, like, the world.
Yeah.
But I was just thinking, like, it would be so impractical to put some of that stuff into a game. The modeling and the animation for these things.
Yeah.
So cool, but
challenging.
so hard to do. If this was 2D, we would have had it.
Right? So that was the other thing, was just like looking at what was available to us. So, there's some designs that were like really cool, but they were like really out there with these super articulate like legs and stuff.
Yes.
And just like that would be almost impossible for us to do like in this demo stage. And it could be something we possibly do for the full game, but it was just looking at it and understanding like, all right, this is the general direction we want to go in, and this is also something that we can muster.
And I think with our approach, like we want to have a machine that's modular so the player can add to it. So we needed something that worked within that system where any one piece can't be too complicated, just because it starts to become like this whole production pipeline later on where you need the 3D artists to make all these different parts. And, you don't want to get caught up making anything so complex that to add another set of wheels to the game for the character is going to take, too long. So there were like a lot of considerations. It's not just, hey, that looks cool. It's, well, how is this going to affect our modeling? How's it going to affect our texturing? And how does it fit into our story? There's lots of criteria we had to look at.
I could honestly talk about this for hours, but the podcast it needs to be done within a reasonable amount of time. We will talk about the concept art in the future. Be on the lookout for that. I think we're going to be putting that on our Patreon, right, Sludge?
Yeah, I think we'll definitely release some of it on social media and on our site, but we're going to try to put some of the concept art on Patreon, so definitely look for it there.
Included with that is going to be some of the stuff that we included for the artists to kind of give them a certain idea of what we're looking for. And we'll be kind of explaining our thought process for the characters, because we haven't really talked too much about the main character, and it is a very important part of our game.
Yeah.
All right, so one of the other things that we want to talk about with the Gears of Eden updates is some of the gameplay. And I know that's important for you guys to be listening to, because what is a game without gameplay?
It's a movie.
Yeah, and trust us, we heard the feedback on the lack of depth for one of the main portions of the game, which is the crafting system. And we are really excited to be telling you guys about the new additions we're going to be doing. So, Sledge, can you tell us a little bit about that?
I can, indeed. Yeah, so, it's going to be a process to get to having more crafting in the game, but that is definitely something that is on the front of our goals. And right now we're starting with the crafting table that's in the base, so we call that the center forge in the lore. So we're on a sprint right now where we're getting into adding the interactivity onto that object. So it'll be the first time in the game there's actually an item you can interact with, other than just getting like text to respond to you. So after this sprint's completed, within a couple weeks, you'll be able to click on the machine and it'll bring up a menu, a UI that will have all the crafting options. So it'll probably be another sprint or two to actually implement the crafting, but that's where you're going to be able to like add wheels and upgrade your solar panels and all that kind of good stuff. Make some drones to help you mine. It'll change the game a lot.
I can't believe we've gone almost 2 years working very steadily. It's amazing we've gone all this time without just interacting with a thing in the world.
Yeah, it makes you realize how much goes into the process of making the game.
Oh, there's so much.
You would think it's simple enough to say, okay, you make the robot move and you can make it interact with objects, and then you can make it craft stuff, and then you can make it do all this like amazing, wonderful stuff. But then you realize that there's like 2,000 steps before you can actually even make the robot move.
Can you imagine making a game like Skyrim or Fallout? That would just go on forever. And they do it like in 5 years.
Hey guys! After 5 years of development, we're able to make the right foot move. Let's we can celebrate with some champagne.
One of the biggest things I've gotten from this experience is just an appreciation for games that like have a lot of stuff and it's just done super solidly.
Yeah.
It is, and it all has to build like one from the other. So that's what we're in the process of. The other thing we're adding in the sprint is durability to items, which is, it actually exists in the programming in the code now. It's just not hooked up into the UI. So as you're crafting these parts and once you equip them, those things are going to start to have the effect of wear and tear on them. So if you make a drill bit, as you use it, it's going to wear down and you'll have to replace it eventually. So all of this is going to make resource collection in the game, actually have a lot more of a purpose and hopefully make it more enjoyable.
Sad story for all the people who like typing in God mode and, just breaking the rules of physics.
Oh, man.
You're going to actually have to, put a little effort into your resource management.
Yeah, we'll still have the God mode.
When I was a kid, thank God. Because when I was a kid, when you're a kid, you don't have like a way to get more games. You have to like wait till birthdays and stuff. I would play No One Lives Forever and Jedi Outcast repeatedly over and over and over again, just with different cheat codes every time.
Yeah. Sometimes big head, sometimes no head. It's amazing what you can do there. Before we head on to the next segment, this is an important conversation we need to have, guys. So take a seat if you're standing, or if you're laying down, like prop yourself up on the chair. We're going to be talking.
Get some water.
Yeah, get some water. You're dehydrated. Just parch those lips. If you like the podcast, please leave a review on iTunes, Google Play, or wherever you happen to find your podcasts. Please be sure to leave a comment on our website, www.gearsofeden.com, to let us know what you think of the podcast. This helps us get a better understanding of how we can improve the podcast to make it a much better experience for you guys. So we really appreciate your support, as it allows us to continue doing what we want to do, which is nerdy stuff and having fun. All right, so thank you, and with that, we'll get back to the show. That's going to wrap it up for the Gears developments. So next is going to be my favorite portion of the podcast, our inspirations. So real quick, if you're new to this podcast, we'll be discussing the inspirations of our own lives and what we use to get through this project. So this can come from either the entertainment, news, the internet, really anything that does simply one thing, inspire. And so I've asked the guys here to give us an example. So please take it away, Sledge. What is your inspiration for this week?
All right, this week my inspiration actually comes from our project Gears of Eden itself, and that's always good when the thing you're working on can inspire you. And so we've been in this alpha testing period for a while now, and we've been collecting feedback from players in the forms of a post-game survey. So those of you out there, if you've tested the alpha and you haven't yet sent a survey in, please do so. It really does give us a lot of valuable insight into your experience and how you want to see things improve for the next alpha. And so we'll do an expanded sort of debriefing of that information later on in the results. But the things that I've been looking at, probably the most inspiring part are just people's comments that they have, where they talk about, what they liked in the game, but then also people that really give good critique and say, these are things that could be done better. And that's really valuable to us. Also some of the poll sort of feedback. One thing that we've heard from a lot of people is they don't enjoy the resource collection. And we know a lot of that is because there's not a lot to do right now with the resources you collect. So hopefully the expanded crafting that we're bringing in will alleviate that problem area.
Yeah, please refer back to our earlier portion of the podcast.
But, there were some promising results too. One of them is that overall, everyone said that their experience with the alpha itself was good to very good. So that was very inspiring, very encouraging. And then every single person that has submitted a survey in so far has indicated they want to participate in future tests. So we love that feedback. We want to hear more and more from you guys. So get in touch with us through the survey, through social media, or our website.
Awesome. Real quick question. So if the experiences were good to very good, were all of our test subjects Superman? No? Because, Superman.
They did well. They were.
All right, we're not keeping that joke in the podcast.
Yay.
Because good is actually the proper word for that.
Yeah, I know. But I have this problem. I have a lot of problems, actually. And one of them is whenever I see the good, I always think of the comment just about Superman.
Actually, what it was I went straight to that place. And I was like, don't be that guy. Don't be the person who goes and correcting the correction of grammar. So I was trying so hard to like make a real joke.
Having to put your hands over your mouth, just like, no, not this time.
Nobody likes this guy, even less than the first guy.
All right. Yeah, I am actually super excited to be going through those surveys though, because like you said, it's amazing to get any kind of feedback, and it just makes it even that much better when it is good feedback.
Definitely.
Gets you kind of up in the morning and just realize that, hey, maybe, you aren't actually, wasting your time, and this actually may go somewhere.
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to seeing like how the resource collection feels once like you can get little drones out there.
Yeah, once it actually like starts working how we envisioned it, because we'll be honest, even when doing the alpha, and actually just whenever we're releasing any version of the game, we understand the full picture and like what we want to do with the game.
Yeah.
But obviously we can't be showing that all at once because it takes time to get up to that.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be an alpha release if we were just done.
Yeah.
Exactly. Wouldn't that be amazing? Just hit a button, like just go straight to the end step.
To that point, I will say, like, there was, and this sort of made me feel good because there were a lot of people who wrote in suggestions for like things that we already planned to do. So it just sort of reaffirmed what we want to do. But they're like, it would be great if maybe you could go to a different asteroid. And we're like, well, yeah, of course. Like, that'd be great. Like, and we're definitely going to do that. And
agreed.
Yeah. So there was a lot of those kind of things, and we'll go over some of that later. But it was really great to see, like, okay, so we're all sort of on the same page. It's just like you're saying, Michael, like they don't know all the things that we have planned. So
with that said, I think it is also very important to get that stuff, even if it may seem redundant to us. It definitely isn't redundant to you guys.
No, definitely, yeah.
There was that one guy, I forget like what the subreddit was. But Sled, remember that guy who just like gave all that amazing feedback based on that one video you made?
Yeah, he gave a lot of great feedback. So we need more of that.
We really do look forward to you guys talking to us because, we enjoy you guys.
And we get tired of talking to each other. So
really do.
These podcasts are the only times we can actually, utter more than grunts at each other. It's like a very old married couple just like barely putting up with each other till the end of the days. Yeah, just hoping secretly, you never vocalize it, but maybe those guys will die first, and then I can get some peace and quiet, like some true peace and quiet.
I think we need to go to counseling after this.
Speaking of inspiration, let's talk about sad marriage stuff. Don't worry, they might die first.
Look on the bright side.
You take care of yourself.
Let's turn this frown upside down and let's go with the next inspiration. Eric, what is your inspiration for this week?
My inspiration, in line with sad stuff, was someone for the first time watching Blade Runner in 2017.
Oh, not the new Blade Runner.
No, the original Blade Runner.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense. Like, that would be the earliest they could see the new Blade Runner. I don't know what kind of future traveler you are.
You guys don't even know what I've seen. I'm not even making up this game when I read it. I'm just telling you these things I saw. So I was reading through their reaction to it. We'll put a wink in the link dump. We'll put a link in the link.
I was literally picturing myself like putting a wink in there, so I think we should.
I will put a link in the link dump to this article in which this person is describing their experience watching it, not through the lens of like, look how cool all this like near future stuff with the Japanese influences and they're totally freaking out the entire time about how it reflects systematic persecution in society. They have this strong reaction to the fact that nobody talks about that when they refer you to the movie. They talk about how like cool Decker is and like the aesthetic of it and the questions or some of the questions it asks.
So like very surface level stuff.
Yeah. And this person was just tripping out on how like not far future it feels. When I was reading through it, I was like, wow, I need to watch this movie again. But I was also amazed that someone wrote that.
Yeah.
Because when you're writing, you don't want to. There's this fear of alienating your audience. In like 1960, 1970, I think it was when Philip K. Dick wrote this short story. If he could say the things he was saying in that story then, it gives writers now so much more freedom. Or it means that writers now have so much more freedom to like really speak to what they believe and what they see in the world.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm going to finish writing the weird little thing I'm writing right now because I was concerned, honestly. Not about Gears of Eden. I think we're going that not in a safe route, but in an approachable route. But privately, I have this little thing that's weird. And it was just like, I'll go with it.
You can embrace it.
Yes.
Embrace
I
your
don't need to be afraid of it.
eccentricities.
Yes.
Yeah, you actually make a very good point because I don't remember I don't remember any books recently that were kind of like on the ban list of like schools and all that stuff. And you hear, when you're going through English and all that stuff, it's weird that now we're reading books that were banned back then.
Yeah.
Just for being like
Well, you know what got banned? Hunger Games.
Oh, really?
And it's actually, I'm really fascinated with the young adult fiction, not genre, but just that space of writing.
Yeah.
Because it's this genre that can't look backwards too much because like it has to assume its readers haven't read the classics yet.
Right. Yeah.
It has to refer to specifically to like things they can experience right now. And that is such a fascinating, almost not dangerous, but like threatening almost
it's
way to be writing.
Yeah, you actually make a really interesting point. I never thought of that as the youth adult books being some people's very first foray into literature.
Yeah. That's why like with J.K. Rowling, she has this very important theme she keeps going back to where it's about like identifying authority and evaluating it to seeing if it's worth your time or seeing if that element of it is worth your time. And then it's just I'm amazed with young adult fiction and I wish it got more credit.
Yeah, I agree with you. It definitely gets like a bad rap from some of the like the super like popular books. I guess like Twilight I guess would be the biggest like like young adult romance book in the internet today. Who did do the play-by-play for Blade Runner?
It was Sarah Gailey, who is she writes these fantastic articles actually on barnesnoble.com, like on their thing, on tor.com, like tor.com, which is this it's a portion of a major publishing house. I think she definitely has 2 novellas out now. This is someone whose career I love to follow because she's just really insightful and talented.
And apparently can write this. So wait, this was on Twitter, right?
So the original form of it was on Twitter. That's like she just did a live tweet. I think it's called like a live tweet thing.
Yeah.
Where she just watched it play by play, and then she wrote an article on the Barnes & Noble site about it. Like
collating into saying like these were the big parts because I assume definitely when you're live tweeting it's basically just regurgitating whatever you see at the moment, and maybe some of
it's
them
all gut.
Maybe some of it isn't the greatest thing.
If I can spread Sarah Gailey of the world, I'll be happy.
Well, that's what this portion's about. Well, since we're still on the topic of articles, we'll talk about my inspiration, and mine is actually from a very oddly named website. So the article is about a game developer by the name of Charles Randall, and he's actually done some pretty big games. Like he's done some of the Assassin's Creeds, he's done Baldur's Gate, he even did Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic, and also a game called MDK2,
which is amazing.
This guy's been in the industry for a good while, a lot longer than us. So he definitely has some wise words to say when it comes to game development. And the discussion he was having, it was on Twitter, so it was like through like 30 different tweets. He was talking about how normal people approach the game industry, and more specifically game devs, whenever they're talking about game development. And it comes down to the internet can be a very toxic place. So much so where like you can blurt out something and people can misconstrue it and eventually make it like a big case over just a couple words. And I highly suggest anyone who is interested in the game development industry definitely take a look at it. It's a bit of a read. It's always weird looking at like huge tweet chains because it's always like broken up into segments. I think he had very interesting points to make about how game developers love talking about their game. We love talking about our game, even in the early stages of it. But
I write about our game every single week.
But this started off with someone asking him why game developers don't talk more about their games to the public, right?
yeah, it was basically one of his friends were asking him he wished game developers would be more candid about their games. And his reply was that game developers are. It just comes down to where some people do not like to hear those candid words, and I think it's this whole disconnect between players and the devs, where players have this misconception where you can easily change everything about a game with a click of a button. One of the biggest things being, changing the engine or just adding multiplayer, where they think it's some kind of option that you kind of go through the click wheel and just kind of select it.
I remember, so I'm really into Monster Hunter, those games. Yeah. And there is a free-to-play version coming out on PC called Dauntless. And I remember seeing the discussion in the Monster Hunter community about their feedback on the in-development version of Dauntless. Yeah. I remember one person was very upset that when he struck with his weapon, there was no feedback to the character. I don't remember the exact wording, but it was basically, this is so important to the game, and if it's not already in the game, there's no way that it's going to work. Because the assumption is that, I don't even know, the assumption I guess is that it's just so much easier to put these things in, and that they are I don't even know how to describe it. It was just amazing to see. Yeah.
There's a lot of just armchair game development going on, in any form space, and it can get, like you said, it can get really toxic really fast.
Well, I don't even think it's armchair, more like backseat. Well, let's say what it actually is, because it would be amazing if for our game we could just go through the options, because right now we have it the checkbox on not complete. It'd be amazing if we could just go down one and say complete, and then suddenly the game's completely done for us. That would be amazing. I'd pay for that engine, real quick.
And I'd love to hear about the greed of games developers, because they are making some of those complicated programs on the market, and they don't make nearly as much as traditional software development teams.
Yeah. Oh yeah. We were just talking earlier about how we wish we could be progressing more with the alpha and some of the features of the game, but it literally took us, so long to get to the point where we are now.
And for the record, this was a very interesting thing for us to read about, but in our own experience, getting feedback from the community, I don't think we had any sort of grumpiness towards us. It seemed everyone was no, yeah, you're at a very early stage. We're very happy to be playing this, and here's our feedback.
Famous last words from us.
Well, I think part of that is because we don't have a ton of exposure yet, so we're not on Steam or some of these bigger platforms yet.
Yes.
So when we make that jump, I assume we're gonna get a lot of that.
Oh yeah.
So be prepared. Yeah, we need to just start, tearing each other down right now, so we build up an immunity to it.
But yeah, please take a look at the article.
Yeah, and don't be toxic.
Don't be toxic, people. Be happy.
Be cool to one another.
So we truly do enjoy the fans that we have now. You guys are such a positivity in our lives, and we truly enjoy you. So
thank you.
Yeah, thank you. All right, we're going to be moving on to the longest section of the podcast, the video games. Real quick, the video game section is very simple. It is the video games that each of the members of the podcast here have played throughout the week. And this is to give you guys an idea of the video games we like, our personality, and just really give us a good talking, I'm trying to think of a French word to kind of describe a good finisher, but it's not coming.
Ménage à trois?
Yeah, sure. Ménage à trois. I think that means something completely different, but let's stick with that.
But there's three of us, and 12 means three.
There's three games.
There's 3 games. There we go. All right, so let's get into it. Eric, let's start with you. What have you been playing this week?
I've noticed a pattern in the games I play where I'll play a game, and then I'll come onto this podcast, and I talk about the game, and I always have to start it out with, okay, so this game starts out really bad.
Trust me, we've all noticed it.
But it gets good eventually. So this week, I made sure that I played a good game. Actually, I spent most of this week playing a terrible game, but that's neither here nor there. I eventually got to a good game that is just good from beginning.
Just this huge pile of video games next to you, just like all
Well, it's
terrible
called
games.
Steam.
Literally, you had to trudge through all these games before you found it's actually good in the beginning. I found it. I found it.
I haven't beaten it yet, but so far it's just been consistently really good. And it's called Banner Saga.
So it's a Hulk video game series about Bruce Banner.
I mean, if you really stretch what
You're never
Hulk
the Hulk.
is,
Yeah.
you're never the Hulk. It's not about gamma rays. It's a fantasy thing, and it's actually one of the best epic fantasy stories in a video game that I've ever experienced.
Really? All right.
Oh yeah. Because usually when like a game tries to do epic fantasy, it's just everything is like vaguely fantasy. Well, not vaguely. It's always like really hardcore fantasy actually, where like there's things made of vines and there's elf people and they all have these crazy names, and it just goes on this really like trying so hard to be big fantasy route. Whereas Banner Saga is just like, I don't know, it nails the magic that you have in Game of Thrones. Where it's very low magic, but the magic element is there, and it's really just so much more about these characters and their relationships and their experience with the struggle of their life. I remember I like tried to play it a while back, but I just like I wasn't into something like kind of slow at the time.
You weren't in the mood to play a good game. You were in the mood.
I wasn't. Yeah, I needed something really garbage like Leisure Suit Larry, Magna Cum Laude.
You're in the more of the fast food feeling. Like you wanted a quick burger.
I honestly think I was, because I think I tried it around the time I was playing one of the Need for Speed games, and wow, that wasn't a good game at all. It was a game that was so not good that I played it on the lowest settings just to give myself something interesting to have about that experience. But Banner Saga is just good. Banner Saga is a good game. But yeah, now that I'm like into it, I'm like, oh my god, this is like, for me, because I'm not a big Game of Thrones fan, this is a far more compelling experience than Game of Thrones, and it's being done in an interactive format, which is just amazing to me.
Yeah. Oh, and that is the amazing thing about video games. They are interactive.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll definitely take a look at it because I do love those fantasy games. It really is interesting. You put it. It's kind of like Game of Thrones, specifically just about the whole magic system. Because I definitely find the medieval portion, like the medieval parts of Game of Thrones, is definitely more interesting than the actual magic portion. And because it can just become this like huge like CGI fest where that's all it is. It's just all this action and all these like cool grandiose things.
Another great thing about Banner Saga is that it is beautifully drawn.
Really?
Like a while back, we were playing Hollow Knight, right? I think we talked about it on the podcast.
Yeah.
And I love that because it was this really cool hand-drawn thing, and it's fantastic. But Banner Saga it's all hand-drawn too, and it looks like a beautiful cartoon from like my childhood, but I don't remember what it was. Like it just hits that nostalgia thing perfectly.
Cool. All right.
Well, that ties a lot into my game.
Awesome.
Really?
Well, what was the game you played this week, Sledge?
Well, so speaking of sort of nostalgia and animation, I mean, this is more nostalgia from like before my time, but I've been playing Cuphead from Studio MDHR. And so I don't, if you guys have seen this, it looks like a 1930s like Mickey Mouse or Betty Boop cartoon, and it's done like with this like old school hand-drawn style, and you feel like you're actually playing in like this cartoon from like 1930s 40s, and it's really interesting.
Yeah, it looks creepy. It looks so creepy. Like it's amazing to think that Disney had to come along and say, oh, let's not do these, crazy vegetables that are going to eat you whole. Let's make a story about like a cute little mouse and his girlfriend and him being a boat captain. Maybe kids will like that a lot better than being scared to death.
Yeah, so it definitely has this, I mean,
I'm looking at pictures of it right now. I'm at something that's terrifying.
It's just, it is like a platformer gameplay, but the music, the sound design, the animation, it's so well done, and it just has that like great sort of classic feeling to it. But it is sort of done in this modern way, in the way that's a little bit frightening. but it's so tough. The gameplay is really, really hard. And, not only is it hard, and this game like really focuses on boss battles. And so if you go into a boss battle, you can choose between like the regular mode or they call it like the simple mode. And I've had to use simple mode every time so far.
Did you fight the water drop thing?
I did not fight the water drop thing.
So I was just watching some people play it today, actually.
Okay.
And there was this water drop boss battle. And I was like, there's no way I could do this.
It's so tough. It's so hard.
Yeah, it looks, I will say, I actually don't think it's really frightening, more just kind of like it has a creepy aesthetic to it.
Well, the story is basically revolves around you've made like a deal with the devil and you're having to go and collect souls from these different characters. These different boss fights.
Right. So it's, it's not scary enough for me not to play because
you can handle it.
I think I can handle it. It's
it's cute, creepy.
Yeah, it's barely right. It's barely on. It just barely doesn't cross the line for me. So I can see myself playing it, but then at the very same time, I can't see myself playing it because it looks difficult.
It's
looks
really
so
difficult. And then you kind of get like, not only is it hard, and then you go into the simple mode so you can get through it. But then they give you, like, every time you beat a boss or a level, you get a report card. and the best I've managed to get is a C-. I'm usually, like, getting a D, somewhere in the Ds. So...
Hey, man, D's still passing.
Yeah, I'm like, come on. I'm like, doing all this just to make it through. And then it's still, like, you're defeated at the end when you get your report card. Yeah.
Did you hear about the guy who beat it, like, already without getting touched? He beat the entire game without losing health.
Yeah, that's not going to happen for me.
Well, it's amazing to think. I remember seeing like videos about this game like a year ago or so, just where people were like, oh yeah, look at this like just general concept of like, 1930s art, and it's really hard because it's like the Dark Souls versions of the 2D platformers, and like Metal Slug and Contra and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And coming to it now, just seeing how impressive it is, both in design and just in like gameplay difficulty. It really brought out like the hardcore fans. I was surprised to see like someone like beat the game within 10 hours, and and when I say like beat the game, I mean like they didn't get no C-, they got like A+ and all of them too. So it's almost intimidating actually, just to think about how big that game is.
Well, Leisure Suit Larry, Magna Cum Laude, got a sequel, so we're good.
Oh, actually, there you go.
I don't know if like I said that clearly before. That was the terrible game I was playing before I found Banner Saga. It's so bad. It's so bad I want to fix it.
All right. Well, I am excited to try the game and fail at it terribly.
F+.
To move it on to a slightly simpler game, not necessarily easier. It was actually a
Definitely
game.
Not.
It was a game me and Eric were playing. It was a co-op game. We were playing a game called Ib and Ob, and it was this like 2-player puzzle game, I guess would be the best descriptor of it.
Yeah.
It was fun, man. I always like puzzle games. That's why I always like Portal. Like just at the pure core of it, it was a puzzle game.
Yeah.
It just surrounded by an amazing story, and Ibn Ob really didn't have a story with it, but it was cool to have all these puzzles that necessitated having another player being with you. Certain puzzles you couldn't do by yourself. Like there was heights that were too big for you to jump by yourself, so you would have to have like a person come underneath you. You would jump on their head, and then you can jump. Or if it was even taller, they would jump, and then you would jump to get like the maximum height.
And the timing of that is surprisingly difficult.
It can be when you're having to, so there's also obstacles that you have to avoid, like little spikes that kill you, and you have to restart. So it was it was also a very cute game. Like the design was very, very simple, just like general shapes with just like little faces on it. And, there's little things that you could, these like little dust balls that you could kick around and all that stuff. It was super
accidentally, maybe. pop.
Or not accidentally, I may have
You're a son of a gun.
murdered a couple families of dust balls.
Oh, I ruined one family on accident. I just wanted to bring them to a party.
And that was the other thing, is like when you complete a certain amount of puzzles, you have like a party with some of the other like creatures around you. It was a super fun, relaxing game.
Oh yeah.
I watched a clip online, and the coordination that seemed to be required on both players' parts looked really interesting. And it's funny that you mentioned Portal, because it did remind, even though it looks nothing like Portal or anything, it did remind me of Portal 2, where you had the co-op mode and like sort of how you had to use the robots in tandem to complete the levels.
Well, so much of the puzzle like relies on an internal sense of physics.
Yeah.
And a sense that like only one person that can do so much for the situation. Like you need both people there, and it's so bouncy and fun, just like Portal is.
Yeah. It really does make you question, though, this like the credibility of the person you're doing it with, because there'd be some times where like Eric would be doing something like, Eric, you are an idiot, I don't know why you keep doing that, and then like 20 seconds later, I'm the idiot because I can't figure out how to jump left or right. So
and then there's some moments where like one person needs just to like stand on something and wait for the other person to get to the other side of that thing, and you're just like, all right, they'll get this eventually.
Well, based on our experiences of playing is it Dying Light together, probably good that you didn't have me in on that round for this. I would have been that person.
When they come out with a 3-player version, we'll definitely invite you.
Ib, Ob, and Oob.
Ooh, sequel.
And that's the 4th one. Ooh. But yeah, it like Eric said, it was like this super cute, relaxing game. It was probably one of the best games I could have been playing this past week, just because it was something I desperately needed. It was just like this.
Oh yeah.
It was just like, there was times where like we had to focus on the puzzle and just, actually play the game. But a lot of the time it was just kind of me and Eric just hanging out, chatting, and just having a good time. Kind of like back to like nostalgia wise, to like you had like couch co-op and you had to play with your friend.
Yeah.
Like on the same TV and all that stuff.
And you can't kill each other, so that's nice too.
Yeah. So if you and a friend want to have a fun co-op game to play, and like cute stuff and puzzles, definitely give Ib and Ob a try.
It's fantastic.
It is fantastic. All right, well that is it for the podcast. I know you guys are sad. I can't hear your tears, but I'm imagining.
Oh, it's over already.
It's over already, guys. We're going to thank you guys for listening. If you have any questions or comments, we want to hear from you and tell us what you think of the podcast. You can contact us and find out more about Gears of Eden at www.gearsofeden.com or on Twitter or Facebook. And if you are interested in finding out anything that we've been talking about, as we discussed earlier, you're going to be able to find links in the link dump on our website. All right, we'll be back in a couple of weeks, guys, with the newest edition of Reaching Eden, and just kind of sign us off. Thank you, Sledge, for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
And thank you, Eric, for joining us as well.
No, thank you.
Until then, we are the Gears of Eden development team, and we're Reaching Eden. We hope you join us.